everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am Christy and I am a Doctor of Occupational Therapy student. In today's video, I'm going to be going over an activity for Allen's Cognitive Level of 2. The activity is going to be sitting, marching in place, and directed walking with targets. Now, before I get into the activity and the materials needed for the activity, I'm first going to go over the cognitive and performance skill expectations for someone who is an ACL level of 2. With an ACL level of 2, the person is going to have and demonstrate more of those postural actions. In ACL 2.0, they're going to start overcoming gravity and sitting. With an ACL of 2.2, they're going to have more of the writing actions and or standing. With an ACL 2.4, they're going to demonstrate aimless walking. With an ACL 2.6, they're going to demonstrate of more directed walking. And with an ACL of 2.8, they're going to start using grab bars. Now, let's get into it. Now, the materials you're going to need for this activity are going to be rings, preferably medium to large side rings that are not so thick either that the person can easily trip over. So these are fairly thin, they're easy to walk over. Secondly, you're going to need a chair, more specifically a chair with a backrest and armrest on the side. And then what is also optional are going to be the foam boards that you can place on the lateral side, which is at the side of the person on the chair. So those are going to be the three materials that you're going to need for this activity. All right, the first activity we're going to be doing is sitting, marching in place. For this activity, you want your chair to have armrests. Now, I know mine doesn't, but the main important reason why you want your chair to have armrests and a backrest, which mine does, is because the person is now starting to overcome gravity with sitting. Therefore, their core strength is not going to be that strong. So you might see things like lateral tilting or lateral leaning to the side. It might be specific to one side or it might be to both. Therefore, those armrests help the person stay in the chair and prevent them from falling out of the chair. Now, with the armrest, if the leaning is really too much, then you can have the foam boards. Now, this foam board is actually a seat cushion that I purchased. So it acts like a foam board and it's thick enough to be able to help support somebody. So you can use whatever it is that you have available. So with the foam board, you would put this in between the person and the armrest. So if they're leaning to a specific side, whether it be the right side, then you could put the foam board on the right side of them. Now, if they're leaning to the left, vice versa, you put the foam board on the left. But if they're leaning both ways, then you can put two foam boards on each side. This helps the person maintain their posture control while performing the activity. Therefore, it helps them keep that upright posture. So with the marching in place activity, if they're tall, you can have them start to sit back and march in place and leaning on the backrest or coming off of it, depending on where their core strength is at. But if you have someone that's short like me and doesn't reach the bottom, what you want them to do is scoot up a little bit to where their feet are firmly planted on the ground. Then what you want them to do next is you want them to march in place. Performing this activity helps them maintain their upright posture and strengthen their core muscles. So you can have them do this for time, such as for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, or you can have them complete a certain number of marches, such as 3 marches, 5 marches, 10 marches, and so forth. You don't want to start off with the too high number or too high of a time. You first want to get a baseline of where that person is, because remember, they're starting to overcome gravity. So their core muscles are not going to be that strong. So in them being able to at least sit upright while doing at least 2-3 marches, at a time and an increment, it's going to give them a better result and a better chance of reaching their goal rather than starting off with a high number such as 10 marches and then getting too exhausted and not being able to complete it. So you always want to start out at a low number and then go from increments in there and see what number your person that you're working with is able to do. So you can have them march in place like so, or you can get your rings and actually place the rings on the floor, and then you can have them toe tap. So you can have them seamlessly rotate or you can have them do a certain number or a certain time for one and then the next. Remember, the main goal is that they're maintaining that upright posture. We're strengthening the core muscles. That way they are not laterally leaning to the side and they're able to sit upright. Next, we have the activity of directed walking with targets. Your targets are going to be the rings that you have here. With the rings, you can make these into any pattern or shape that you want on the ground. So I'm going to start off with an S shape. I'll switch this one up. So what you want to first note and have is you always want to have the chair behind the person that you're working with. The chair is there for safety, such as if the person gets tired or their knees buckle, you have the chair that you can immediately sit them on. Secondly, more than likely, the person you're working with is going to need assistance, whether that be a one-person assist or a two-person assist. One-person assist, you're going to have someone stand on the side of you. With a two-person assist, you're going to have one person on one side and the other person on the other side of them. So with the directed walking, we're having a goal we want to reach. So the goal is I want them to start off in the yellow ring. So we're going to start off in the yellow ring, then we're going to walk to the, orange ring, then to the yellow, then to the red, then to the blue, and then to the green. Now, to increase the level of difficulty with this activity, you can have them actually go backwards. So from the green to the blue, to the red, to the yellow, and then to the orange. Again, they have you as a support there, just in case they do lose their balance. You're able to catch them. And then, of course, if you have a gait belt, you can go ahead and put a gait belt on the person. And then remember, the chair should be behind them. So you can repeat this activity for as many times as the person can tolerate, depending on their level of performance skill. So another pattern that you can do is like a ladder. So instead of an S, you put the rings together sort of in a ladder shape. Well, I call it a ladder shape. So what you want is you want the person to begin on either side. There's no exact preference, but we're going to start on the orange. Then I'm going to guide them and direct them to go to yellow. Then I'm going to direct them to go to blue. Then I'm going to direct them to go to red. Then I'm going to direct them to go to yellow. Then I'm going to direct them to go to green. Then you can have the person repeat these steps again, or to increase the level of difficulty, have them go backwards. So from green, we're going to go to yellow. From yellow, we're going to go to red. From red, we're going to go to blue. From blue, we're going to go to yellow. And then from yellow, we're going to go back to orange. And then you can have them repeat this again as many times as they physically can without getting tired. Now, if they start to get tired, then it's okay to incorporate rest breaks in between the sets that you have for them. So you can start off slow. You can only start out with 2 rings, and then you can gradually go to 4 rings, and then 6 rings, and then 8 rings, and so forth. You don't want to overwhelm the person with too much rings to start off in the beginning. You want to gradually be able to build with them. So you want to start off with a low number of rings and then gradually increase the number of rings. That way they're able to reach goals and not have a goal set that's too far out where they're not at that level yet. Therefore, that comes a concept of being able to upgrade and downgrade the activity. Now, of course, there are other patterns you can do, such as if you want specific colors on one side, or if you want it to mix match, and then from here you can say from the yellow, go to blue. And we're now going into like a zigzag. So from blue, go to yellow. There we go. So as you can see, I did sort of like a zigzag there. And then if I had more rings, we would continue that pattern. And then again, you can have them go backwards. So from yellow, we're going to go back to blue. From blue, we're going to go back to orange. There we go. and incorporating that zigzag pattern. So there are multiple ways you can set the rings up to have directed walking, but just make sure that the rings are not too thick where they're going to trip over them. You want them to be thin enough to where if they step on them, it's fine because it's almost flat and even with the ground. And then of course, again, making sure safety awareness that you have a chair behind you, you have a gait belt on them if one is available to you, or you have 2 people or 1 person assist. The last thing you want to do is not have at least one type of assist level there, because again, they are overcoming gravity. Their core muscles are not going to be that strong. And then of course, you're also working on balancing. They're now being able to start to walk again with the directed walking. So you want to be able to provide as much assist as possible for safety purposes, but direct them through the walking to where they're still independently walking as much as possible. So this is going to be for the activity of directed walking with targets. Alright, this now concludes our video for ACL level of 2. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Until next video, thank you for watching.